This is the Simply Love Jesus podcast, where we explore life and faith through the lens of one question. And this is that question: what does it mean to simply love Jesus? I'm your host, Caleb Davis. So excited for today's episode. Unfortunately, my co-host, Aaron Collier, is not with us today. He is under the weather, and I'm a little bitter towards him because he's going to be going to Disney World, and it's not going to be fun because I love Disney World. And he decided he's just going to abandon me and go with his wife and kids, and I guess that's cool too, but it's whatever. No, but keep him in your prayers. He's feeling under the weather. He's going to the doctor today, and it's just not fun to be sick when you're planning a vacation. Anyways, when Aaron comes back, we're going to have another episode for you guys. Really looking forward to it. We're going to do our best to be consistent on uploading once a week. I promise you we will always post at least one episode a month. And I do like the rhythm of once a week, though. It's nice. It's very therapeutic for me. It's therapeutic for Aaron, for us to talk with each other. And I really look forward to that. So today we are going to be going through some questions and question and answer stuffs. It's going to be good. I posted on social media through a couple outlets, and we asked some questions to the general listeners. And I just want to take some time to answer some of those questions. I think they're good questions. And I value those who are listening, and yeah, we're gonna get to those, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. If you have social media, if you have Instagram or Twitter, man, we would really appreciate either leaving a rating or leaving a review, or just following us on Instagram or Twitter. It shows us that we're not obviously talking into a microphone by ourselves. It shows we're talking to people, and people are listening, and we like when people listen. Makes us feel nice inside. So yeah, we if you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, our handle is at SLJ Ministries. SLJ, Simply Love Jesus. SLJ Ministries. We're gonna go ahead and dive into these questions. Really excited about them. And we're going to start us off. The very first question that we got comes from _Naomi. Naomi Murray. So excited. So her question is this: How have your disciples turned out in Iowa? Which one is your favorite? That's going to be a fun question. So, Naomi, first off, miss you. You're killing it. Always kill it. You always kill it. And proud of you. Graduated college. You're getting old, and I'm getting old because you're getting old. Miss you. Keep teaching people what it means to simply love Jesus. Keep making disciples. You're awesome. Now, to answer your question, the discipleship has been going really well. It's been going really well so far. We've done 2 years of the few so far, and it's definitely trial and error. It's a trial and error process out here, because students up here, culture in Iowa and the Midwest is not the same as it is down south. Down south, you guys, it was a little bit easier to disciple. I wouldn't say easier. Maybe easy. Maybe easier. I don't know. It was more comfortable. There we go. It was more comfortable. That's the word. It was more comfortable for me to disciple you all down in Georgia, because I was raised in that Southern culture, and in that, at least at Crossroads, our culture was, students, we could push your comfort zones, and you guys were expecting that, and you were ready for it. And so I pushed y'all's comfort zones, challenged you all, and you met the challenge, and it was awesome. And students in the Midwest, they like their comfort zones, to be honest. Like they like their comfort zones, and that's not a bad thing. It just requires just a little bit longer of a process to help them see the positive and amazing results of having your comfort zone stretched. So Year 2 was definitely more trial and error than anything. It was the students were great. They were honestly really good, and they learned a lot, and they served, and they met those challenges. And there was a lot of things that I was battling with in this past season as well. So a lot of things affected the season this year. Year 1, I had handpicked 3 guys to take through the few. Their names Griffin, Carson, and Jacob, and all 3 of those guys are amazing. Each one of them so fascinating. Each one of them excelled. If you remember, so this is like super inside language for the rest of you listeners. But Naomi, if you remember the being available, obedient, intentional, and consistent, we talked about that in the few in our discipleship. So, if for those who are listening who don't have no idea what I'm talking about, in the discipleship process, the few is what I disciple students through. And when I disciple them and we go through that, I teach them that there are 4 characteristics that every disciple, every leader, every person should aim for, but specifically what I look for in a disciple, in a student who's going to thrive. And those 4 things are being available, obedient, intentional, and consistent. So now back to you, Naomi. The students, I'll talk about the students in year 1. It was so fascinating. Each of them thrived in something different. So Griffin, I'll go through Griffin, Carson, and Jacob. Griffin, was very intentional and thrived. That just like the obedience part, it was very much like if I say it, he did it. He was like, boom, hey, go pray for this kid. I want you to go pray for 3 people this week at school. Boom, done, got it. Yeah, got it. I don't know. He wouldn't say he would not say it like that, but I don't know why I just said it like that. That's not how he sounds, but it's okay. So anyway, Griffin was really good about that. If I said something, he'd do it, and he would always rise up and he would do that. And Jacob was great because Jacob was always available. He was very good at the available part, and he was very good at like, hey, what are you doing right now? He's like, I'm not. Let's do what do you need? And he'd always be available. Like, hey, can you help me with this? He's like, yeah, sweet. I'll come over to the office. We'll help me with this, whatever. He was always available, and he's available for anyone. Anyone calls him, he's available. He will make time for you, and I loved that about him. Carson was awesome because he was intentional. He had intention. He was busier than the rest of them. Like his schedule was crazy, but he was intentional even when he wasn't at the few. When he was show choir or whatever, he was intentional with the people that he was with, and he took the things that he learned and he was intentional with applying it wherever he was, and each of them did those 3 things consistently. It was great. The second year of few students, they were also awesome. I think of this one girl, Jenna, who just killed it at her verses. She was just super smart, super intelligent, and she was also very intentional, very consistent. And it was great. There's other guys like Micah and Logan. They struggled a little bit, but they finished strong. Another girl, Olivia, she's got tons of potential, and she's also very intentional. She's very funny. She uses humor a lot, but what a lot of people don't get about her is that for Olivia, it's not always about jokes. Like, she can joke, and sometimes she may use that as like not a defense mechanism, but she uses humor. But the reality is there's a lot of things going on in her head. There's a lot of questions she's thinking through, and so she's very intentional about being okay with talking about that and being okay with wrestling with those questions. And that is such a great characteristic to have if it's fostered correctly. That was my one of my biggest challenges to her, is that really love God, root yourself in trusting and believing in God, because she's a thinker, and it's great. But you just got to be careful that when you are rooting yourself in God and trusting in Him, because if you take that down the rabbit hole, it can lead you to a bad place. But if fostered in the right way, it becomes something beautiful where you are just wise beyond your years, and I can go on and on. It's great. So they all were awesome. I mean, Sydney was just intentional. Like she's all about those verse memorizations. She's young. She was young, so she's got a lot of years ahead of her, a lot of more years for growth. But she even did great. Joe was also very intentional, and he stuck it out. He was great. Unfortunately, he didn't have the most positive experience, but that's okay. Like the few isn't for everyone, and that's all right. Like, and Joe is he's got a solid head on his shoulders, and my prayer is that years to come, that even there are some students who didn't have as positive of an experience. Some of them didn't finish, but that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't mean that they're somehow not a Christian or they're somehow not going to be spiritual or anything like that. It just means that the few was not for them, and that's all right. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the fact that it's not for everyone. It's hard for me to be okay with that, but I'm okay with it. It's okay. So I hope that answers your question, Naomi. I love all of the students who go through the few. I love them very dearly, and they're very close to my heart. They're like my treasure, and so yeah, they're amazing. So next question is from Chantel Adams. Her question is, what age were you when you started TikTok? That's a funny question. So for those who don't know, some of my students, they got me into this social media app called TikTok, and it's donned a couple different names. There's Musical.ly, TikTok. There's what was the other one? There was one I got it when it was called Musical.ly, but one before that was Dub Smash, or I don't remember, something like that. It's a social media app. It's basically a ripoff of Vine, I think, kind of. But they got me on to the social media app, and in a short amount of time, not a short amount of time, I'd say about a couple months. In a couple months, I got up to like 25,000 followers. It was great. And I still use it, and I try to use it to encourage others, give some laughs. Very casual. But anyways, her question was, how old was I when I started? I started in this past year and a half, so that would be 24. 24 years old. So I've only had it for a short time, but it's been fun. Fostered a really cool community of 20,000 mainly students, some adults, and try to give some laughs, and give some encouragement. And it's been really nice. It's been really fun. I look forward to making videos and making people laugh. It's good stuff. Next question. Let's take a break because the next two questions are kind of heavy hitters. So we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll answer some more questions. So hope you guys have enjoyed it so far. If you do have questions, if there's a question that you hear that you're spurred on or just hasn't been answered or whatever, feel free to follow Simply Love Jesus on social media, SLJ Ministries, and let us know in a comment section of any of our pictures, just send us a message and let us know, hey, I have a question. Could you talk about this? And we'd be more than happy to talk about your questions. Even if it's just you want a private question and you just want to talk about it privately, that's okay. We'll message back and forth, and we'll try to answer your question. Me and Aaron will. And yeah, so that being said, we're going to take a short break. And yeah.
San Francisco papers are investing a lot of money to try and get a service just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.
All right, we are back with questions and hopefully good answers. Questions and hopefully good answers. So the next question we have is actually from another one of my disciples. Her name is Olivia. She's also a few student, just like Naomi was. She was also in the few. So Olivia, this is a great question. I as I read it, I was wondering if this was for her personally, or if it's just a generic, how do I answer this for other people? So, but anyways, I'm pretty sure it's a little bit of both, and that's totally okay. I love this. Her question is, what is a Christian, and how do I know I'm not just someone who believes in the concept of God? That's a doozy. What is a Christian? Let's take this one at a time. So what is a Christian? well, we just did an episode on this. What is a Christian? I think we're going to do a second episode, actually. Like, there's just so much we want to say. There's so much good content. Go back and listen to our last episode, mainly because you really get to hear our microphone upgrades. Yeah. But in the last episode, the whole thing was about what is a Christian? Like, where do they come from? Are they just fairies that live in the forest? No. Like, where do Christians come from? And we talked about that. What does a word Christian even mean? How do you know if you're a real Christian or fake Christian? Or why aren't Christians Jews? Because Jesus was Jewish. There's all sorts. We just went on a huge ramble. I think we're going to make a second episode because there's just such good stuff to talk about. Like, there's so much you can talk about. But that's for a different episode. For this one, I'll still answer this question. But just to encouragement, Olivia, go back, listen to our last episode. It's really good. But to answer your question, what is a Christian? We'll take this one at a time. Man, you hear that? Did you hear that sniffle? That was... I'm so sorry, listeners. This is what happens when Aaron's not here. He filters my craziness. So, what is a Christian? A Christian, very short version, is someone who is devoted to loving God with all that they have so that they can love others and prepare the world for Jesus' return. So, a couple of things. What is a Christian? And now going into this kind of goes into the second part. How do you know if you're not just someone who believes in the concept of God? How do you know that you're actually a Christian? Well, first and foremost, Luke 9:23 says that if you want to be my follower, you must deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. That's what a Christian does. Are you willing to put your life down for Christ? Like, are you willing to give everything? Some people, they just don't know. It scares them. That's okay. It's a scary thing. You know, if someone were to come up to me and would gun at my head and say Jesus or die, and I say I choose death because to die is gain, to live is Christ and to die is gain, I would not hesitate about that. Some people might. That doesn't mean necessarily you're not a Christian, but it just means it's something you're not faced with every day. But here, let me give you four things to kind of shorten it up, and then I'll try to wrap it up in one sentence. So hopefully this will help. First, do you believe that Jesus is God? Do you believe that Jesus is God? Do you believe that God is Lord over your life? Like, do you believe that God says something, and that God speaks, you do it? God asks you to change something, you got to change it. God says you have to let go of something, will you let go? If God says to open this door, jump on into the craziness of life, if God offers you a gift, will you receive it? Is God Lord over your life? Is he the ultimate authority? Who gets the ultimate say at the end of the day, you or God? Now, do you believe God raised Jesus from the dead and that through him we can receive an extraordinary life? John 10:10 says that Jesus came that I may have life and they may have it abundantly. Do you believe that? And do you believe that God raised him from the dead? That Jesus died and he 3 days later got up, defeated death as he prophesied that he would, as it was foretold that he would, that he claimed that he would, in order to prove his deity, in order to prove that, like, hey, I am who I say I am, and I am. Theology nerds just went crazy. I'm sorry, I'm weird. So anyway, and the last one, are you willing to go wherever God calls you to do whatever he asks you to do? That's Luke 9:23, carry your cross. If you say, based on your answers, you would be baptized as a Christian. Based on your answers, that would make you a Christian. So now a one-sentence summary is the purpose of a Christian. The purpose of a Christian is to love God with everything that you have so that you can love others and prepare the world for his return. If you're doing that, yeah, you're a Christian. Do you believe Jesus was raised from the dead? Yeah, you're a Christian. Do you believe Jesus is God and he's Lord over your life? Yeah, you're a Christian. as crazy as it's to think about right now, but if someone were to threaten your life and put your life on the line because you're a Christian, would you still choose Jesus? Yeah, you're a Christian. And do you believe at the end of the day, who has the ultimate authority? You or God? And if you say God, yeah, probably a Christian. And yeah, to love God with everything you have so that you can love others and prepare the world for Jesus' return. There's a lot of stuff packed into that one sentence, but that's how I would summarize that in one sentence. So hopefully that answers your question, Olivia. Thank you for the question. It's good. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Last question for you guys. Last question comes from another few disciple, Mr. J New 0_0622. Mr. Jacob New, the man, the myth, the legend. Jacob's question, and I'm pretty sure he's probably asking this mainly for the sake of other people, because he does this pretty well. So his question is, how do you bring up Jesus naturally in a conversation? How do you bring up Jesus naturally in a conversation? So how you bring up Jesus naturally in a conversation starts with a couple things. First, and I tell this to Jacob all the time, people want to know that you care before they want to know what you care about. People, whenever I plan on having conversations about Jesus with other people, I first don't talk about Jesus, ironically. I usually look for a way to serve them. So if it's a friend, if one of my friends is like a waiter, I'll ask about their day. I'll ask, hey, how are you doing? And they'll say something, and then I'll ask, okay, how are you really doing? And then we'll make some small talk. I'll get to know them. I'll leave a really big tip, and then I'll come back and I'll see them again, and then I'll ask them how their week was, and I'll keep investing. And then usually to open that door, once I've showed them that I care about them, I'll open the door. So getting more to your question, how do you bring up Jesus naturally in a conversation? I usually open the door to intentional spiritual conversations by asking, how can I pray for you? So I'll usually just ask, like, hey, how can I pray for you today? Usually that right there in itself will lead up to some good conversations. But if you're just wanting to, like, coffee conversation, talk to someone, whatever, then usually I put a question back on them. So I'll give you three options here. So option one, this would be helpful. Hopefully this helps you, like Jacob. 3 options. Option 1, start with serving. You start by showing them that you care before you tell them what you care about. So start with serving them. Find something where you are good news to them. Whether it's, you bring them free tacos every time you see them, you give big tips, whatever it is. Start with serving. And then when the time is right, when they ask you why you're serving them, why you're doing these nice things, then you introduce, it's because I love you, and I love you because I've first been so loved. And that's when you start talking about your testimony. You talk about Jesus, and you go right into it, and it's awesome. Option number two is you have a couple good conversations, but then you ask them, hey, how can I pray for you? Like, kind of the last thing you're saying is, hey, how can I pray for you? And then the next time you see them, if they follow up, or if they follow up with it right then and they ask you, why do you want to pray for me, yada yada, you can just open right into it. And option number three is asking them, hey, what are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? What do you like? What do you care about? And they'll say, like, sports, or my job, or my boo thing. I don't know. My puppy. And then they'll ask you, like, if they ask you, what are you passionate about? Well, Jesus. I'm passionate about Jesus. I think Jesus is awesome. I'm a Christian, and I love my Bible. I love reading it. And that's a good way to naturally bring it up. A fourth way, even, is just straight up asking. If you're in a good place, you're in like a coffee shop. Coffee shops provide a great environment for good conversations. And you can just say, hey, let me ask you a question. Like, what do you think about Jesus? Like, what are your thoughts about Jesus? or the church or God or whatever. Sometimes just asking people just right out is also not a bad way to start. I've had great conversations like that as well. Especially, I call them airplane conversations. The airplane conversations. I'm sitting with the person next to me, never going to see them again. And I'll just sort of like ask them, hey, so what do you like to do for fun? And they'll be like, I don't know, sports, whatever, the ESPN. Like, what about you? I'm like, well, I'm really passionate about telling others about this guy named Jesus. And he's changed my life. And I believe in God. I'm a Christian. And honestly, God has just radically changed my life. And I would love anyone and everyone to love Jesus the way that I love Jesus. Honestly, I think the world would be a better place. I think the world would be amazing, and so many of our world's problems would be solved if people had a desire to love Jesus. And usually people kind of weigh into that. I've never had a conversation where someone's just like, oh, that's awkward, and then walk away. I've personally never had that experience before. Most people I've talked to, kind of just depending on how you're presenting that, they're gonna lean into that, and they're gonna ask you more, or you get to ask more. You know, they're gonna open it up so you can ask more and ask like, well, what do you actually think? Like, and then if they tell you, well, I don't believe in God or whatever. We'll say, well, why? Like, what happened? What made you think that? And if they say, oh, I just believe in science, and you're like, cool, me too. Like, it's all around us. That doesn't change whether God's real or not. There's different ways you can lean into that, but it's getting down to a story and getting down to a life story and asking the right questions. Sometimes it's all about planting seeds. I am not a huge proponent for trying to save someone in their first conversation. I pray and pray and pray for opportunities like that, but I'm not going to be someone who's just going to pull I don't know, a bullhorn preacher moment where I'm like, yeah, you know what? You need Jesus. We're praying right now. You need Jesus. You will be saved today. Now, granted, if the conversation's going really well and they're receiving it and they're being responsive, I'm like, have you ever considered just praying? And then you just pray for them right then. Just being open to whatever it is that God would ask of you. I very much caution other people against that. Asking for like a conversion right there, not because I don't think that people can do it. There's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not trusting enough in people. But most of the time when I've seen other people do that, it's not been handled very well. If I do it, I'm really good at reading people and how they may be responding to me in a conversation. So I'm able to read that well, but I don't know. You know what? Scratch all that. Scratch my words. You lead where the Spirit leads you. If you think God is telling you right then, hey, I want to pray for this person, so introduce Jesus, and then introduce that gospel. Like, let me tell you what I believe, and then just lay it out talking about the gospel and how Jesus came and he died for our sins. Romans 3:23 says that we're all fallen short of God's glory, and Romans 6:23 says that the wages of those sin is death. That we messed up. We royally messed up in the beginning. At the beginning of time, with the first humans, they brought sin into the world, and the world has been broken because of that. And that brokenness is dragging us down. But you know what? God wanted that brokenness to be restored. Even though He is the one who created everything and is the King and is ruler over all, and put the responsibility on us to manage and steward this world well, and we screwed it up. And we brought evil into the world and tore our relationship from Him and continued to walk the way that we wanted to walk, continued to walk towards death. Jesus, God, still loved us enough to pursue us, which is why Romans 5:8 says, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And the reality is that relationship can be made right when we choose to believe in Him and trust in Him, which is why Romans 10:9 and 10 says that when we confess and believe, when we believe in our hearts and confess with our mouths that Jesus is Lord, that we will be saved. And it goes into that whole explanation, Romans 10:9 and 10. And that I believe that when we do that, John 10:10 says that we have life, have it abundantly. And that John 14:6 says that He is the way, the truth, and the life, and that we cannot experience heaven without Him. That one day Jesus is coming back and all things will be made right, and heaven and earth will be together, and it will be made as it was before. But God wants to use us to prepare the world for when that is coming. for when that day comes in Revelation, that written down, it is happening, that he is coming back and the new heavens and the new earth will be here. And he wants to use us for that. And so when we believe in him and trust in him, God gives us the power. God gives us the power to overcome the problems in our life, the struggles in our life, and then equips us and empowers us with the power to change the world around us, to prepare it for when Jesus returns and makes all things right. And then you just ask them, man, do you want to join in on that? Because that is life-changing. And they may say no, and they may say yes. You may pray right then, and it'll be awesome. And if that does happen, text me, because yes. But regardless, point is, just be open and be willing. Open and willing. But, 3 things I always encourage. Encourage, enjoy, and equip. Encourage them. Tell them something nice. Enjoy your time with them. Invest in them and just get to know why they like what they like. And then just do something small to show them what it means to be like Jesus. It doesn't need to be a full-on gospel conversion right then in your first conversation. You could just be laying down the seeds. You could just be laying down the seeds for someone else to come and reap the harvest. And that's okay. We're just called to be obedient. We're just called to love others. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And love your neighbors yourself. Deuteronomy 6:5, Leviticus 19:18 is the greatest commandment. Jesus tells us about that. And yeah, one small step to teaching others what it means to simply love Jesus. It's good stuff. Well, man, this went on a lot longer than I thought it would, but I hope you guys have enjoyed me answering some of these questions. I hope it was helpful for you in some way. And look forward to our next podcast episode where me and Aaron. Well, next episode may still be me. I don't know. I think Aaron will still be on vacation. I don't know. We'll find out. Next episode, hopefully me and Aaron. May just be me again, but that's okay. It's a journey. Life's a journey. If it's just me next week, then we're going to dive a little bit more intentionally into this idea of simply loving Jesus. I want to explore that a little bit more with you guys. It's, in its own way, I'm still learning what it means to simply love Jesus, but God just shaped my life one day, and I want to teach to others what God has taught to me and how it's done so much for my life. And just this understanding of Jesus and this understanding of the Bible. And not that it's different from most of Christianity, but it's a lens to which to view things, and it's been so helpful, and I hope it helps you. So that will be me next week. If Aaron is back, oh God, I hope he's back. if Aaron comes back to me, if Aaron comes back to the podcast, to you listeners, then we're probably going to have a continued conversation about what is a Christian. I just think there's more to be said there. I thought we had some good stuff, but I think there's more to say. I wasn't happy with not that I wasn't happy with how we ended it. I just think there's just more to say. And we'll continue that conversation, and it'll be good stuff. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, give us a follow at SLJ Ministries. Leave us a rating and review on the podcast app for iTunes, because that's going to help other people be able to get encouraged. Like, hopefully you're being encouraged today. And share this with your friend. Share this with a friend. I believe there are plenty of people out there. A lot of the world can understand, when they understand what it means to simply love Jesus, that we can build a community and teaching others what that means. Living a lifestyle that starts and revolves around loving Jesus, it's going to make a change in the church. And because of that, it's going to make a change in the world. It's going to happen. I look forward to it. One day it'll come. I don't know when that day is, but it'll come. Just like Jesus is coming back one day. I don't know when it'll happen, but it'll come. It'll be good. Whew. All right. Have a good day. Love you all. Yeah.